Last February, Good Party leader Patricia de Lille raised the question of a basic income grant before Parliament, urging government, in her own words, to alleviate the social and economic trauma of rampant unemployment and inhumane hunger. She had suggestions of her own about how to go about raising the necessary resources to fund it. She now joins us to explore the options on the table. Minister, good evening and thank you for your time tonight. What adds to the urgency of bringing about this debate now? How should we interpret this particular move of bringing the debate when we know that we are not in a good fiscal position?
Certainly, coronavirus have just speeded up the need for assistance to the most vulnerable and poor people in our country. But the whole debate about the basic income grant is nothing new. From the Taylor report that recommended at that time in 2001 that if we just give people 100 Rand per person per month, it was going to reduce poverty by 76%. And so I'm glad that the debate is back again, because COVID-19 has now turned our attention again to not only the people that are receiving grants from government already, but there are many people, what they call the middling middle, who are unemployed. They don't qualify for any of those grants. And that is where we think that we need to make an intervention as soon as possible. Either we continue with the COVID grant, or we go to a basic infrastructure, a basic income grant. And then, of course, everybody asks, where's the money going to come from? I think that we have got enough money in our country. We lose 500 billion Rand a year in corruption. If our law enforcement agencies can just return at least half of that money by putting these crooks in jail, we'll be able to afford it. Also, if we take all the money that we have been bailing out the state-owned entities, we can also afford it. And then if in government we can stop wasteful and irregular expenditure, then we can also be able to fund it. But we must not be heartless now. We must be thinking about all of the people who are unemployed, who don't have anywhere to go, who don't get any government grants. And I'm sure that, the Human Rights Commission has also found that 1 out of 4 South Africans are living below the poverty line.
Yeah.
And so, as a country, we must come together now and just be brave and make a bold decision and support the basic income grant.
Will politicians not abuse this to buy votes?
No, you know what? Poverty knows no political affiliation. When you are poor, you are poor. If you are landless, you are homeless. It doesn't ask what political party you belong to. So we shouldn't play politics with it, but it should be seen as a means to help our fellow brothers, our fellow sisters and brothers in our country that are starving. Our constitution makes provision for appropriate social security assistance and access to that. So it's also in our constitution. It's nothing new that we will be doing.
Now, we already have grants for children, grants for the elderly and persons with disability. Yes. What's the importance of that population of 18 to 59?
Well, I think we're looking, the Stats SA estimate at about 13 million people. And if we agree to a grant of, say, 250 Rand per month per person, we're looking at about 49 billion, 50 billion Rand. Now, really, we have bailed out SOEs in this country for much more than that. And then good support, a phasing in of the basic income grant. And as we derive savings from stopping corruption and stopping irregular expenditure, we can always roll it out in a phase-in approach until we reach that middle group of people that don't benefit from government at this point in time. Yeah. And so, during the elections, we've campaigned that we should bring in the basic income grant to reduce poverty. I still believe that that is currently the only way how we are going to make a dent in poverty.
Black Satch is arguing, or at least recommending, that the value of the grant ought to be at least 1,227 to match the upper bound poverty line and the minimum amount needed for basic nutrition and essential goods.
Well, I was just using the example of 250 rand, but that should be negotiated with all the social partners. Like we've come together to negotiate the minimum wage of 3,500 rand a month. Again, Netlec is one institution, civil society, all spheres of government. And if we can cut just irregular expenditure in government, we will be able from all three spheres of government to make a contribution towards a basic income grant.
Yeah. With all the challenges, though, that we are facing currently now with the distress of relief grant of 350, particularly around the criteria and who qualifies and the policing of who should be getting it, and you already are benefiting from the social grant system in the country, so you're not qualifying and all that. How are we going to be able to implement this one and manage it properly?
The current grants of COVID-19 has now enabled government to build up a database of people that we never had on a database. And that is the start for the basic income grant. Because people who are qualified now for the COVID grant, they were not supposed to be also getting in child grant or elderly grant or that. So there is a database already. But then we need to use technology. You can have the blockchain methodology where you can do up to 200,000 transactions per hour. So develop the database, bring in blockchain, and then it will just not be so difficult to administer it. But also if you pay people directly, you also remove all of this agency in between, because the agencies also take a percentage of the grants that's meant for the poor if you pay to people directly. And we've made a start with COVID-19. The databases are there, and I will propose that that is where we need to start.
Now, Minister, there are those who are saying this will discourage, in a sense, people from looking for work. It will be a disincentive to work when we give people this free money. Rather teach people how to actually earn a living for themselves.
People are thinking like that are heartless. They don't know the history of our country. They don't know where we come from. We are the most unequal country in the world. So let us think about our fellow brothers and sisters as human beings and not being a nuisance. So I don't believe in that. With the unemployment rate almost at 30%, it's not people don't want to work. Many people want to work. They are looking for those opportunities. So let us assist our brothers and sisters in this country just to live and just to survive, like all of us are doing.
Should not be put on the shelf then, Minister. You're saying it should be implemented right now. We know, for example, this is the same conversation and the same argument that was raised with the idea of free education. And it was passed, and there was money. It was found somehow, and that money meant that certain grants actually had to be cut back. So grants on housing, grants on health, and so on and so forth had to be cut back to be able to fund that. Should we go ahead with this in a similar form and just hope government will find money?
We have to go ahead. It's a matter of survival. It's a matter of life and death. It's a shame if any of our brothers or sisters in this country die because of hunger, when we've got enough food in this country. But the problem is people don't have access to that food. People don't have the money to buy those food on all of those shelves that you see full of food in all the supermarkets. So I'm pleading for compassion here. I'm pleading that in these difficult times that we are living now, that we think about those who don't have, and let us as government try and help them through these difficult times by providing a basic income grant. People can use that basic income grant to buy a train ticket to go and look for work. Currently, people don't even have money to get onto a bus or a train. So for me, it is about survival. It's about, dealing with hunger, bring some relief to the poor, and I'm sure that we can find the money. That's 500 billion rand that gets stolen in this country every year. We must retrieve some of that money and we can fund the basic income grant.
Leader of the Good Party, Patricia de Lille, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us tonight.